In this part, we're going to be finishing up our Shadespire skeletons, and this time we're going to be discussing what colors work best, do a little bit of rusted armor and other decayed effects as needed. We are starting off with a red color. That's going to be the main color for this unit, and beginning with a undercoat of Vallejo Model Color Black Red. Red needs a lot of layers and you got to slowly build it up, so this color is going to help our other reds be more intense once we get towards the end. Color choices for skeletons, since they have mainly a white shade to them, you have a wide variety of colors. Reds look really good, purples, blues, greens are okay provided that they are dark enough. I would stay away from light greens because greens tend to be more a color of nature, and I would avoid lighter colors like yellows or oranges because of the light color of the bone. It's best to go with something darker that's going to give you more contrast. Our next color is Vallejo Model Color 926 Red, and this color is very thin and we have to apply a whole lot of layers of this color. As I said, red is tricky to work with, and to get a nice smooth transition with red, you need lots and lots of layers, very thin layers. So this is well thinned, and we're slowly building up this color till we reach the color that's coming out of the bottle. So each area is going to get about 5 or 6 coats, maybe a little more. Not only does red have to go on very thin, you also have to be careful about your highlights, because if you over highlight it, you could turn it orange or yellow or white or some other color. Red, generally you don't want to do a lot of highlighting on. However, on this project I decided to ramp up the highlights because I thought I'd give it a little more of an unearthly look, something a little off with the Walking Dead. So I've mixed in, I don't think this is quite a 50-50 mix, but I've mixed in some Vallejo Model Color Orange Red here. And then we finish off with the final highlights by adding some game color Sun Yellow to that previous mix. And with red, you want to work on just highlighting those edges. We didn't do those highlight colors over the entire surface. We kept them more concentrated toward the edges, so that rich red still stands out. But we do have a really sharp, brighter color edge to this cloak. We need to have some really good rusted, corroded armor for our skeletons, obviously, and we're going to be using Vallejo Model Color Metal Color. Very high quality metallics, a little tricky to work with. They are a bit thin and some of them don't cover that great. Because of that, we need to do 2 coats to get up to our base coat. First starting off with steel, which is much darker and it covers fairly well, and now we're covering that up with this is pale burnt metal. Our rusted armor is going to be a really simple technique. We're just going to go over it with 3 different colored washes, starting off with Vallejo Panzer Ace's Light Rust, and it's a medium to light thinned paint wash that I'm applying here. Just enough paint or enough water in it so we avoid tide marks, and it's put on very haphazardly, a thin coat over the entire surface, but then also blotching it on certain places so we get a nice broken up mottled pattern. Our second color is Panzer Ace's Dark Rust, and this is applied in the same manner over the entire armor. This color is a little bit thinner though, because we want this one to go deeper into the recesses. So applying a thin layer over the whole thing, trying to concentrate a little bit more in all the cracks and crevices and dents in all the metal, but also once that's done, going back and adding a little bit blotchiness here and there, just like we did with the Light Rust. because this is thinner color that we're using, it's not going to completely cover all the light rust that we previously applied. And our final color is straight black, once again, thin to a wash consistency. And this color is mainly just only for the recesses. Trying to get a little darker areas in all those dents and holes in the armor, and also between all those plates. We can do a little bit of modeling with this, but it's mainly to get our nice dark recesses all taken care of. Our secondary color for our skeleton unit is going to be Vallejo Model Color Royal Purple. Purple works really well with red and also gives a hint of nobility. Maybe these guys were royal guards at one point. So we're doing the shield on this figure and already base coated with Royal Purple, and now I'm proceeding to add white to it for the highlights. About 2 highlights, I believe. Unfortunately, this subject that I picked, not a whole lot of purple on him because of the big emboss on the shield, so not the best example here, unfortunately. And then for shade, we are using a mix of the Royal Purple and Black, applied as a thin wash or glaze, applied about 2 to 3 times just to get a darker edge towards the bottom of the shield. Since that shield I picked for the video unfortunately was not that great of an example, I just wanted to show you the 2 that I did as practice and give you a better idea how the shields look when they're done. For all of the belts and straps, we're going to paint this really simple, starting off with a base coat of Vallejo Model Color English Uniform. And then we follow that up with a highlight with buff added to our English uniform. And we're just highlighting the edge of the belt, the top and the bottom. And if necessary, some areas where I want a little bit more highlight, I add a little bit more buff just to give a few extra highlight spots here and there. We kind of want it to look a little bit stark at this point, so more buff added than I normally would. And then we finish up with a very heavy wash of inks, brown ink mixed with a little bit of black ink, and it has a little bit of glaze medium added to it, which tends to help the inks dry a little bit better. It doesn't cloud the surface so much, and also helps to avoid pooling. And this is applied very heavily, so we get a nice good contrast on the belt in the center section, and so it'll tone down that highlight just a little bit. Also, this is the same wash that I will use and go around and fix any errors or touch up any dark lines I want on the model, such as areas around the shield or between the bones or something like that. So this is a universal color that we can use all over the Mini. Last thing to do is the trim bits, and for that I decided to use gold, which realistically not a proper color. You're not going to have a big gold edge on a shield. Also, gold doesn't get tarnished, so not quite appropriate for skeletons that just came out of the earth. However, it does look really good with the colors that we use with the red and the purple, because it all gives a bit more of a noble feel to our skeletons. I tried using a darker color for this, something closer to brass, a little bronzy, but I just didn't like it, so kind of like the brightness of the gold here. Anyway, we've already undercoated with Vallejo Model Air Rust, which is a very good dark brown for undercoating with gold, and now we are base coating with Vallejo, this is Game Color Glorious Gold. We are using a simple one-step highlight because we do not want to over-highlight gold. We've added some Model Air Silver to the mix, and just proceeding to highlight all the rivets and the upper edge of the shield. In hindsight, if I wanted to make this look more like brass, which probably would have been a better idea, you can just add more silver to gold to give it a bit more of a brassy look to it. And then to shade the gold, we are using brown ink, about 3 glazes on the bottom area of the shield and around all the rivets. Make sure you allow each one to thoroughly dry before applying the next layer. Point of order here, you notice I'm using inks on the gold, but I use paint washes on the armor. There's a reason for that. Paint tends to take away the metallic sheen better than ink. Ink leaves it in place. Because it's the nature of the difference between the two. So you can use the ink glazes on the gold, and you still get a nice shiny gold look to it. Now, whether that's proper for undead skeletons that came out of the ground, that's a different point of order, but that's the reason why there's a difference between using paint on one and gold on the other. Different effects when you get to the end. To avoid our gold looking too neat and clean, I went back with some green ink and applied a couple blotchy washes, glazes here and there around the rivets and a few other areas to tarnish it up a bit. Yes, gold does not turn green, at least not real gold, so maybe we do have brass here. Who knows? At least it looks good in the end. And there we go. There is our finished unit for Shadespire, our whatever you call these guys. I can't remember. Sepulchral Guards? Something like that. So yeah, it's all done. Unit looks pretty cohesive, but I will say I think that there's a different way you can take this unit. Normally with unit you want unifying colors so they all match, but all these guys are very distinctly different, so I think you could actually use different colors on each model, because the one guy has a hood on him, and he only has one piece of clothing on him. I couldn't do any purple. The guy with the sai, and the shield's work is different, so you can actually mix and match colors on something like this, where each one is uniquely different. Much easier to do than on something like a unit of Space Marines, where they're all wearing virtually the exact same armor. So you can be a bit more creative with this unit than I was, but hopefully this helps. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.
I seem to have died. Is that okay?